So what is up, everybody? Today I wanted to do a video that's been on my mind for quite a while now, and a little bit of a rant, honestly. It goes into how I feel a lot of people view movies now, how they experience them, and kind of going into why I think they say there are no good films anymore. And again, I apologize because I'm going to be rambling a little bit if I do get off on a tangent or if it comes off pretentious. I don't intend it to do and sound better than anybody or anything just because I watch a lot of films. But as somebody who does watch a lot of films, there's something I've noticed, and that is the inability for the average viewer anymore to suspend disbelief or to engage in the type of movie that they're watching. And obviously what I mean by that is if you're watching a movie that's stupid, you need to go into it assuming it's going to be stupid, and vice versa. If it's a movie that's kind of up its own ass, it takes itself a little bit too seriously, you got to hold it to that standard, you got to pick apart its flaws. But I don't know when everybody became a critic all the time, where no matter what they're watching, they cannot turn their brain off and they cannot just enjoy what they're watching, to the point where they're picking apart every single film, every single logical flaw. It's almost like they want to watch reality television in which you're seeing people act completely normal at all points, and I just don't think that's when films are the best. I think they're at their best when they're kind of smart and logical, but they are kind of amplified. They're unrealistic to an extent because we don't want to watch a film that's very generic and has nothing going that's extraordinary, or we wouldn't watch the film. We just go around in real life or watch people act normally. Well, that's something I noticed, and I just wanted to point out the inconsistencies I've noticed a lot of people having when it comes to watching films nowadays. And a lot of this is coming from a place of a person who has seen so many films, obviously, to the point I made a YouTube channel. I just wanted to talk about them with you guys. But I went through a phase where I was just like this. I was going into movies, I was picking them apart. I just did not get the same joy out of films as I did when I was a kid. So much so, in fact, I kind of realized that the more you analyze films, the more you just find them unenjoyable in general, because you're kind of going into it as a critic, not as a general viewer. But when I really started to actually have fun with them again was when I kind of started suspending disbelief more, and when I started kind of acting in a way I thought the director wanted me to act. So I'll give you an example. You go to see Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, we all know from Ryan Reynolds and the director, this is not a serious film. I mean, I said this in my review, and I wasn't even that high on it. I just really enjoyed it, but I wasn't a crazy fanboy like some of these people. But going into Deadpool and Wolverine, I know exactly what I'm getting. I'm going to be getting a bunch of dick and ball jokes. It's going to be funny. It's going to be a bunch of cameos. We're just having a good time. Nobody gives a shit about the plot. I need to make that, like, nobody gives a shit. Like, I admitted there was no plot, and that will be too much for some people. But you need to know going into Deadpool and Wolverine the type of film you're walking into. That is basically on you. And when you watch the trailer, you need to be able to assess that. And I'm just saying, I started to enjoy films a lot more again once I started kind of acting according to what I believe the director wanted me to do. So if I go into a movie that's really stupid like that, I go into it expecting, okay, this movie's going to be stupid. I need to think stupid. And that's kind of how I do it. If I'm into a Robert Eggers movie like The Witch, or one of these really, really like dark and it's very serious, it's just so, that's really the sell to it. I'm going to start picking it apart. I'm going to hold its logic, I'm going to hold the logic to a standard, because you can't ignore that when the movie is so serious. Like A Quiet Place, I used it as an example in my new review for that. It's a film that takes itself way too seriously for how many inconsistencies are in A Quiet Place day one. So that's what I mean. Like, when you go into a film, just try to analyze, what do they want me to do and what do they think my experience is going to be? You're watching Captain Underpants, don't go into it picking apart logic to it. It is not meant to be like that. And it's not just because I want to sound better or pretentious. I just think you will enjoy films a lot more if you view them through the light the director wants you to. And I already know what people are probably thinking. I'm just forgiving lazy writing. Movies have gotten lazy, so we're moving the bar lower. I just don't agree with that point at all, because if you think of all of the films you think to be classics, people herald these films like Die Hard, Jaws. There's a lot of these films that have giant logical inconsistencies. We just liked them growing up, especially when people were younger, if they have nostalgia tied to them. So I can't think of a single film that's in my favorite repertoire that's perfect logically. There's always some stupid suspension of disbelief required. Bruce Willis in Die Hard, he cuts his feet up on glass. He never gets out of that. He's not taking the Nakatomi building himself. And if you can't see that, John Wick, we all love John Wick. We all love The Beekeeper. We love these like pseudo action star movies where a guy goes into a room, Monkey Man, he kills 20 people. Logically inconsistent. If you're the type of person who watches John Wick and says, there's no way he would be able to beat these people up, or they watch a girl who flips a guy in an action movie and goes, a girl would never beat that guy up, you're just taking away from the fun of what's intended. Obviously, we know that John Wick is not going into a burning warehouse. And he's not killing 50 people, 50 on one, becoming unscathed. It just, Whenever I see it now, I don't really think, again, that it's how you have to think. I just almost feel bad because I understand there's a lot of fun and joy to be having with such ridiculous premises that are coming out. If you just go into it with a different mindset, and I know not everybody can do that. They can't force their brains to turn off. They can't ignore stupidity. I am a very analytical and efficient thinking person normally, but I've almost conditioned myself when I watch films to do this so that I enjoy them more. Music the same way. I'm just saying, try next time you go into a film you have no interest in watching, you think it's a stupid premise doing this, I almost guarantee you'll have a better time. And what really got me onto thinking about this was actually when I just saw Trap. And that is a film that I just think, it's by M. Night Shyamalan if you're not familiar, but that is a film that is very divisive. I'm seeing reviews from almost every popular YouTuber saying it's dog shit, it's like the worst movie ever. There's a million logical inconsistencies, which again, I've done a review on that. You want to check it out. I mentioned 10 times in that review, 2 words, fun. I probably use that too much, and that it's ridiculous. And I knew immediately, because it's an M. Night Shyamalan film, we should know this by now, you know the name and what he does, that it's not going to be a R-rated serious movie. It's going to have like a comedic undertone. The characters are going to be cartoony. You know that with M. Night Shyamalan, but what you're getting with him is an incredibly unique premise. And I think that matters because it's at a time where all you hear is that Hollywood does not make unique movies anymore. They only make sequels, prequels, shit we don't want, these terrible Star Wars remakes. So it's important to identify that Trap is completely original. Whether you hate it or not, you watched that trailer probably and thought, that movie looks pretty good. Or maybe you didn't, but I feel like most people did. It was just something that was kind of interesting because going into that film, if you go into it with the attitude that it is asinine stupid, I think it's a lot of fun. And I will die on that hill. Some people have mentioned that. I agree. A lot of effort went into it and staging a real concert feel, which I think is incredibly unique for a film. You have some other stuff going on with a ton of backup actors. It's self-funded. There's just really cool things you could root for if you're not going into it with a critic mind that you're going to slander every single film. And why I'm still going off on this tangent is because, again, I saw Abigail earlier this year. If you're unfamiliar, it's a vampire movie. We'll leave it at that. And in this film, the little girl's a vampire and they kidnap her and hold her ransom, and they're trying to just, they're trying to exchange her to her dad. And somebody I know was watching this film and said, if she's a vampire, why didn't she instantly bite him when she got kidnapped? And 2 problems. One, then there's no movie. You'd have to be Einstein to write a movie with no plot holes behind the 4th wall because every viewer is going to nitpick it in some way. Second off, it's just not an interesting premise. If instantly, anytime somebody's presented with danger in a horror movie, a thriller, they instantly pick the most optimal escape route. They're instantly conditioned. There's some movies that operate great like that, but the majority of them cannot hold up and they're not smart enough. And to be honest, it's a vampire movie. The premise is not what I'm going into expecting Oppenheimer. Okay, so like, it's one of those things. And the other thing, I guess, to get you on Abigail, they explain later on why she wouldn't do that. So you have people going into movies with a critic mind and they're just ripping things apart before exposition's even given for why characters did what they did. Sometimes they explain within 20 minutes why the guy was a dumbass. And it might not be a good reason, but at least that's what they're going for. Again, it's just one of those things where when you're sitting there thinking about it, it stands out like a sore thumb sometimes that some movies that just have ridiculous premises or just get picked apart. It makes no sense. And if you relate that to Trap, you just have a guy who's in a concert, he's being hunted by the FBI, he's trying to hide from them. I don't want this guy hiding in a closet for 2 hours, okay? Like, I want this to get extremely ridiculous. I want to see how he works his way out of this. I want him to be in danger and get out. If he just gets caught the first time he gets into a sticky situation off of realistic protocol, there's no movie. And maybe your argument is that we don't want the movie then because it's a stupid movie. Then you have a point, but that's the stance you have to take. To just judge the movie on its merit, I feel like the trailer did not mislead. You kind of go into that film with a contract as the viewer that you're getting what you signed up for. They didn't mislead. People complain about trailers all the time misleading. You knew exactly what you were getting when you went into Trap. So that's something that comes to mind. And the last thing I wanted to point out is the irony, because Deadpool and Wolverine is like 99% audience score. And it's not just 99% audience score. These fans are going after anybody who doesn't understand why this film is fun. And I don't get why Deadpool and Wolverine is given the luxury of we know it's stupid fun, but a movie like Trap, again, I'm not going to die on the hill for Trap or anything. It was good. But I don't understand why Trap, Abigail, these other movies I really enjoyed, but I heard people shit on Twisters. Why they're not given the same luxury that Deadpool is, that we're going in and we're having fun. It doesn't make any sense to me. We do it for Deadpool, we know it's fun, but we go into a vampire movie, we don't know it's fun. And it honestly kind of feels like Deadpool and Wolverine was fun to so many people because they had the expectation they were going to have fun. That is the key point. You go into these stupid premise movies, these super over the top action movies, these vampire movies, anything you want, and you just say, I'm going to have a good time with this. Until you're given a reason not to, you should have fun with it, or you can have fun with it. But if you go into these movies that you will immediately know you're going to pick apart, another one's Twisters, I really have fun with. Some people love it, some people hate it. I don't understand how anybody who liked the first film could hate the second film. Like, I understand there's inconsistencies. I understand you have a preference. I'm not really a fan of the first one. I'm in the minority. But I truly do not understand how you can go into Twisters and think it's a derivative, boring character movie with no action. Like, it just is the same film as number one. It just feels like back in the day it was original, so people gave it a pass. But now, because they don't think the same way, everybody's a critic. They're doing things for engagement online. They're holding it to a way higher standard than what it is. It's a summer blockbuster called Twisters. Do we really think anybody's driving into a tornado? I don't know. I'm just going off on a tangent. I think this has been a long video at this point, so I'm going to wrap it up. I just wanted to give my insight. Nothing personal to anybody who thinks like this. I have a lot of viewers like this I'm really cool with. We talk in the comments all the time when we bullshit. But it's just something that came to mind, and I think a lot more people at least could do with hearing this, I guess, or maybe try to think about things in a different light. Again, I apologize if I sound pretentious. I sound like some guy who just knows everything about movies. I'm telling you how to act, how to enjoy. That's not my intention. I'm just trying to reiterate the trajectory of how I view movies and how I have so much more fun now, especially with ridiculous films, especially at a time where I have a YouTube channel and I'm reviewing so many of them. It stands out like a sore thumb. If you go into these films and you pick them apart, you can go through droughts of a month in a row without watching a good one. So that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. Do you agree or disagree? Comment down below. I'm really interested in what your thoughts are on this topic. If you think it's unforgivable that Hollywood's writing has gotten so lazy. Do you just have fun with these films? What's a stupid film you watched this movie you had fun with? What's a stupid film that you just did not get into? You could not suspend disbelief? Something like that. Comment down below all of that stuff. Give me any replies to what I said. I am very interested in where people stand on this. If you haven't subscribed already, feel free to join me down below. I do a little bit of everything on this channel, new releases, movie reviews, things like this. That's all I got in this video. I will see you guys in the next movie review. Thanks for watching. Peace.